Unlike most videos on this channel, this video isn't really specific to electric cars. In fact, it'll pretty much be applicable to any car that has wired Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. And really, pretty much all of the mid-range cars made in the last 5 or so years have wired Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. So what that means is, in addition to being able to just pair your phone with the Bluetooth to have basic things like answering phone calls and playing some music and stuff through your phone wirelessly, you can also grab a USB cable and plug one end into the car, plug the other end into the phone, basically as though you're charging it. But if you plug it into the specific port that's used for Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, you then get all of this stuff from your phone pulled up on the car. So you can have your media here, that's in fact playing, pause that. You can have your media and Google Maps or Apple Maps or Waze or any Maps app you might have on your phone that you want to use. And they're usually all way better than the built-in navigation or map on the car. So being able to have that is really nice. And if you press this app button down here, you can access a whole lot of other apps from your phone that you can also use on the car. I don't really use much of that other stuff, but being able to have media and maps, Google Maps rather than the built-in Kia Maps here, because the Kia Maps isn't that good to be honest. So being able to have Google Maps and everything right here, and even access to the Google Assistant is really good. So when I first got this car, originally all I did was pair my phone with the Bluetooth, and I mostly used that. And then I would only bother to actually plug my phone into this cable if I specifically needed navigation and wanted Google Maps instead of the Kia Maps, or maybe if I was going on a really long trip or something. But then the first time I took this car on a decently long trip, I actually ended up plugging my phone in pretty much the entire time. And I kind of found I really liked having Android Auto connected all the time, because my car even has a button on the steering wheel that I can press and then talk to the Google Assistant immediately, as long as my phone's connected, and say like, hey Google, navigate to this place using Google Maps, or play this song or podcast or whatever. So I just found it was really good having proper Android Auto rather than just basic Bluetooth connection. And I decided I wanted to basically have my phone connected to Android Auto all the time. But the problem was, I realistically just wasn't going to plug my phone into the car every time I get in, then unplug it every time I get out. That's just becoming too much of a hassle. And that sounds really lazy, but the fact is I'm just not going to do that. So what I needed was wireless Android Auto. And a lot of newer cars and more expensive cars actually have wireless Android Auto built in. So whenever you get in your car, it'll just connect wirelessly and you'll have Android Auto or Apple CarPlay all the time. But my car and a lot of more mid-range cars don't have that. So what I did instead was I just bought this little thing on Amazon, and this basically gives me wireless Android Auto. What you do is you plug this into the USB port on the car. It takes power from the car to power itself. And it basically lies to the car and says, I'm an Android phone that's just been plugged in, so let's do Android Auto. And then you wirelessly connect your phone to that dongle, and the dongle basically says to the phone, I'm a car with wireless Android Auto. So it kind of lies to the car and the phone, but then it runs basically as sort of a bridge between them, allowing you to have wireless Android Auto or Apple CarPlay on any car that has wired Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. So I got this specific one. Here it is on Amazon. It doesn't have to be exactly that. There's several others just like it, and they'd probably work exactly the same. And the one I bought is for Android Auto because I have an Android phone. If you had an iPhone, you'd buy a very similar one that has Apple CarPlay. So it's just down to what phone you have really. But now, as you can see, because I've plugged the wireless dongle in, my phone is not plugged into anything, as we can see. And on the car, we have basically the same interface as we did just before. So we have maps and it all works just like normal. We've got the media up here. We can pull up the apps and everything like that. So it all works just the same, and all the steering wheel buttons and everything all works just like it did. So it's basically no different at all, except I don't have to plug my phone in now. So I've been using this for, I'd say, almost a year now, and it's mostly just been really good. Like, you just get in the car, turn it on. It does take maybe 30 seconds for it to sort of connect and start up and start working, but you don't have to do anything with it. You don't have to fumble around, find the cable and plug it in. You just jump in the car, turn the car on and start driving, and then once the dongle's ready to go, it'll start working. And it's just been wonderful. So I've been using Android Auto basically all the time whenever I'm driving anywhere. But I do have sort of a few complaints, and because this is the only Android Auto dongle I've ever used, I can't necessarily confirm which of these complaints or issues are this dongle itself, the fault of that dongle, or they're just the reality with using Android Auto or using wireless Android Auto or anything like that. But I do have a few complaints. One is sort of just the basic concept of wireless Android Auto. It seems Bluetooth is not good enough to give you all this data to be able to show everything on the screen like that. So to do it wirelessly, the dongle actually has to create its own Wi-Fi network, and then your phone will connect to the dongle's Wi-Fi network. Obviously, there's no internet on the Wi-Fi network or anything, so your phone will use 4G for actual internet access, but it will connect to the dongle's own Wi-Fi network to transmit this data onto the screen. And that works okay. But what it means is you can't be connected to wireless Android Auto and have your phone connected to Wi-Fi at the same time. And this is really not an issue 99% of the time, because if you're driving, you probably don't have Wi-Fi anyway. You'll probably just be relying on 4G or 5G for your phone to get internet. So this is almost a silly thing to be complaining about. But just things like when you pull up at home and you're still in the car, you haven't turned the car off yet, you're within range of your Wi-Fi, quite possibly, and your phone still won't connect to the Wi-Fi until you actually turn the car off and get out and walk away. Really doesn't matter that much, but it's just slightly annoying. And then it can cause a problem on very specific fringe cases. For example, in a few months' time, I'm planning to go on a very long road trip into remote outback Australia, where there will be a little bit of phone reception, but mostly no phone reception. So I have a Starlink dish that puts out its own Wi-Fi hotspot that I'm going to connect my phone to. But that will mean whenever I want to connect my phone to that Wi-Fi hotspot, I can't also use wireless Android Auto, because I can only have my phone connected to one Wi-Fi network at the time. So that's going to become a bit annoying. For part of that trip, I might have to use wired Android Auto, or go without and just use Bluetooth or something, or just have no internet on my phone whenever I'm driving. So there's sort of a bit of a trade-off there. It's really sort of more of a technological issue than any fault of this actual dongle or the car or anything, but it is just a bit annoying there. And by extent of that issue, there's also a weird issue I've been having with my car. Not necessarily an issue, but after I turn the car off, so I hit the power button and the car turns off completely, the dongle seems to still be turned on most of the time, even though the car's turned off. So even if I turn the car off and get out of it and go stand outside next to the car, my phone will still be connected to the Android Auto dongle. And that just can be a little bit annoying sometimes, especially if I've parked the car at home and I'm standing around the car, near the car. I'm now having to use 4G instead of the Wi-Fi because my phone's connected to the dongle's Wi-Fi, so it's not letting me have proper Wi-Fi, normal Wi-Fi. So there's a few annoying things like that. And sometimes if I just walk past my car and not even open a door or anything, it'll just pop up on my phone, Android Auto is available. And I'm like, I don't care. But yeah, so that's just a little bit annoying. But I think that's almost more my car's fault than the dongle's fault. because the dongle doesn't have its own power source. It has no battery or anything inside it. The only way it gets power is from the car's USB port. So I'm guessing what's happening is, for some reason, the car's still sending a little bit of power out through that USB port, even when it's turned off. So then the dongle's getting power and it's going, well, you must have turned the car on then, I guess I'll start working. So this probably maybe isn't an issue for a lot of cars. It might depend on the way the car's designed or something, whether or not the USB port has power to it. But I have found that a little bit annoying, that it sometimes tries to connect to my phone and things while it's on. It would be good if maybe even the dongle had some way of, even though it has power, detecting that the car's turned off, so therefore not trying to connect to my phone. So that's something they could maybe change about it. But it's not really a massive deal. It's just something I find slightly annoying. And then apart from that, my only other real issue with it would be occasional sort of reliability glitches and things. So as I said, when you first turn it on, when you first turn the car on, it takes about 30 seconds for it to get connected. And that's really no big deal. It'd be nice if it would be a bit quicker. Sometimes you're sort of halfway out of the car park and you kind of need the navigation on the map and it's not popping up. So sometimes it's a little bit annoying, but most of the time it's really no big deal at all. And what will then also happen sometimes is sometimes it actually won't connect properly. And this is quite infrequent. It maybe happens to me once a week or something, if that, not very often. But sometimes I'll get in the car and start driving assuming the dongle's going to start up and start working. But then after 30 seconds, a minute maybe, it'll pop up saying phone not responding. And I've found when that happens, all you really need to do most of the time is unplug the dongle, wait a second or two, plug it back in, then you wait the regular 30 or so seconds for it to turn back on, and then it starts working perfectly fine most of the time. But it is just a bit annoying and feels a bit glitchy when it does that and isn't too good. But anyway, and I've also found, because when the car's off, my phone will sometimes connect to it. Sometimes if I've been standing around the car or near the car for a little while before I actually got in it and turned it on, sometimes then if my phone's been connected to the dongle but not really working or on and connecting in and out, that's often seems to be sometimes what causes it to not connect properly when I do actually turn the car on. So there are just a few little things like that, but overall it's just so good having wireless Android Auto. I'm really not willing to plug my phone in every time, but I really like having this. So I put up with those little weird things and it's quite good. If I didn't have a dongle anymore, I probably would still order another one. So that sort of tells you what you need to know, really. But that's it for this video. I'm very happy with this Android Auto dongle, and I would order another one if I needed another one. So that's pretty good. You might not think so, but if you are interested, you can check on the link to my one that I ordered, or you can just look at a similar one or one for an iPhone, and you might like it as well. But that's it for this video, and I'll see you in another one soon.